Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Infinite Wisdom. And boy, are we in for some fun tonight because my guest is Kryssa Bowman. And we have been finding out little by little that we have quite a bit in common. Even though it may not have happened at the same time, we have similar interests. And we're just going to dive into her history, and where it's led her, because that's what we're really interested in here. We love to sort of track back and maybe see the breadcrumbs that started at a very young age and see how they flowered out as life goes by. So, with no further ado, welcome, Kryssa. Very nice to have you with
You.
us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I found out that my mother's going to be watching this later. So
Oh, good.
I am terrible at censoring myself. I should just state that right up front. I have no idea what is going to come out of my mouth ever. So sorry, Mom, in advance if I say anything that you don't approve of.
She's she's such a cool person. I'm sure she'll be fine with everything. And we like that. We don't like people to censor themselves too much because this is real. This is a real conversation, just back
Yeah,
and
my
forth,
filter
sharing ideas.
broke long ago. So,
Yeah. Let's go way back to when you were a tea-tot. And what
yeah.
it look like? You were born to a very interesting mother, and so let's hear about that.
So I was born in 1970. And my mother was most definitely in the throes of her like spiritual seeking uh, phase, which I don't know ever really went away. It's just morphed and transitioned into, different levels and layers. But she, I think by 1973, we had moved to Black Mountain, North Carolina.
Mm.
And um, she became very good friends with Jim Gore, and he was what was he, an astrophysicist? No, he was a nuclear physicist. That's what he was, who had a spiritual awakening. And so he opened this whole thing called the United Research Light Foundation, or UR Light for short. And that
Sure.
was like my childhood. I spent all my time there. And there, he had a bunch of kids, but they were all older. So there weren't really a lot of little kids around. There was me and then one other little boy who was kind of raised as my brother, but we're not biologically related. Anyway, and so I spent a lot of time around adults and very woo-woo adults, very new age adults. And that was my whole world. And the reason why this even sort of like came up in a previous email that I sent out about us is because I was absolutely fascinated with this book on Findhorn Gardens. It was like a coffee table book, full color photos. And I was the only person I knew that like saw nature spirits and talked to them as a little kid. And I would tell the grown-ups, but I'd be like, do you see them too? And they'd be like, no, sorry. And I think they mostly just sort of like, patted me on the head, like, oh, isn't that cute? I was very fortunate that they didn't dismiss it and just tell me it's not true. But they
Mhm.
also didn't see them. So here was a book with grown-ups who saw nature spirits. And I was like, oh, they exist. And then you were telling me about your time spent in Findhorn. I've wanted to go to Findhorn since I was a little kid.
I'm sure you did. And
I still do. It's on my bucket list.
well, it's closed now, so
I think the nature
unfortunately.
spirits are still there
Absolutely, I'm sure they are.
though.
And I like to tell the story about arriving at Findhorn and feeling that moment of, well, Oz is here and Kansas is here, and there's a clear demarcation line.
Mm.
Because you get off this little jitney bus, and I was deposited into a trailer park with in a semicircle shape. So like spokes of a wheel, the trailers were going off like that.
Okay.
And so everything to the right of me was sand, seagrass, trailers with little marigolds in window pots, like little whatever, just queued up their
Mm-hmm.
trailer. And
Mm-hmm.
these little poor little marigolds are just, kind of like this. And then I looked to my left, and it was abundant, green, the sound of bees. It, well, it, you just go, what? What?
Wow.
The mind, I experience that my mind going, how can I hold both these things?
Right. And they're just
Because it
right
was so
there.
dramatic, so
Yeah.
dramatic. And then you
Yeah.
just walked into this amazing environment. And yeah, that's a whole other story, which I won't go into. But I love that it captivated you as a kid. Tell us about seeing the nature spirits. What can you describe them or how you would interact with them?
Yeah. Well, there were a few different kinds. And then I had one in particular that was like my best friend.
Hmm.
And I was an only child, and there weren't a lot of kids to play with. So maybe imaginary. I'm not ruling that out, but maybe not. And he was an elf, and his name was Drilfie, and he taught me how to fly. What I mean by that is like, so my mom would put me to bed early because I was a little kid, right? But she would have friends over, and I'd feel like I'm missing out on all the fun. And so Drilfie would, he was like, just leave your body here. She'll never know. Let's go play. And so he taught me how to roll out of my body. And then I could go downstairs and like spy on my mom and go fly over the town and stuff. Apparently it's astral travel, but I didn't know that then. I just thought that I found a cool way of not having to go to bed so early. I was like, yeah, that's a great, I'll just leave my body here. She'll never know.
Wow. So you came in already advanced, really.
Well, I didn't know that.
No, of course
I
not. Of
thought
course
I
not.
just like, figured some brilliant sneaky thing out. But there was one woman who her name was Gloria, and I can't remember her last name, but she was a good friend of my mom's, and she was over a lot. And there was a time when my mom had a whole bunch of people over. I think she was teaching an astrology class maybe or something, and I was supposed to be in bed, but I left my body there because I wanted to go see what was going on. And so I'm like hanging out in the corner of the ceiling and just watching everybody. And then this woman, Gloria, saw me. I don't know what she saw when she saw me, but she looked right at me and like our eyes locked, but I was just in my light body. Um, anyway, she talked about it later, and I don't remember how much later, but at one point I saw her again. I was like, hey, you saw me when I was like flying. And I think she described it as like I was just a flash of light, or she didn't know it was me, but she was like, I just saw like some sort of a little orb or light or something like that. And so I was like, oh wow, that's so cool.
Very
So,
cool. Very
and then
cool.
for the nature spirits, there were there were ones that I didn't really like so much, and they weren't mean. They were just mischievous, and they didn't like humans very much. And
Aha.
were they had like round brown bodies with spindly legs and spindly arms, and they weren't very big, but they like to cause trouble. And they like to get in the house, I remember. So I would always like, even if it was hot out, I would close all the windows instead of having, the windows open with the screen, because they can get through the screen somehow, I thought. I don't know. But they would get in the house, and uh, strange little
What
things
kind
would
of
happen.
mischief would they do? Like
Hide
move things
things,
around
move
or
things around. One time, they started making this like globe light that was in the dining room spin. And my mom walked in and she was like, what is going on? And nobody was possessed. I was like, it's just the brownies, I think is what I called them. It's just the brownies, like they're just being like
Yes,
that.
there you go. That's the brownies, exactly.
And then there were the other ones that didn't seem to be all that interested in me, but I was fascinated with them. And they were more like traditional fairy looking things, but they didn't really have human faces. They were like long, light with gossamer wings.
Mm-hmm.
They can
Mm-hmm.
flip in and out. So, like, they could be here or not be here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they knew I could see them, but I just wasn't interesting to them at all. I think that
Mm-hmm.
they were just like, ugh.
Well, they're very busy.
Yeah, they are. And that was another thing. Like there was different colors for different plants and different um, areas too. And then there were different sizes of them. Like some would be
Mm-hmm.
really big and some would be kind of small. And yeah, I have a picture of one on my desktop. Um, I don't think it's meant to be that. Somebody just painted this beautiful picture and I was like, that looks exactly like them. So I made it into my desktop. But it's like this just long light body. The one on my desktop is blue, and it has wings, but they're not traditional, like, what you would consider fairy wings. They're more just like these, I don't know how to describe, like gossamer.
Yes, yes.
Did you see some in Findhorn? Like, are you
I
like,
did
oh, I
not.
recognize those?
I did
No.
not. But years later, I went to a dowsing conference, and there's a woman in New Jersey who goes to these falls. She calls I guess it's called Fairy Falls, and they go at dawn and at dusk. And they have permission because she's been doing this and communicating with them for many years. People are allowed to come in with her and they go through their, process and all that to connect up. And then they can take pictures. And she did a
Mm.
whole hour-long
They'll show up.
slideshow. Oh, yes.
That's
Oh,
good.
yes. And as you're saying, different sizes. The,
Hmm.
you know, the flower fairies are different from
Hmm.
the other kinds of fairy, like everybody's, it's a whole thing. And
Yep.
one of the pictures that I
It's like a
love the
kingdom,
most,
and there's hierarchies, and
yes,
but
yes.
it's really, mm, there's hierarchies, but there's like justice. Like, there's at no point
Hmm.
does it seem like there's an authority. It's more just like everybody just knows their place, and they
Hmm.
just are happy to do whatever their role is kind of the sense that I got. So
I love that. And well, that's really cool that you were able to see them, interact with them, learn from them.
until I started getting bullied and harassed for it,
But
and then my
uh-huh.
subconscious mind shut it all down.
And how old are you? 7, 8,
I was 9.
9. Okay.
Yeah, we moved from that area to Shepherdstown, West Virginia. And I did find a really good friend there, but and she tolerated my nonsense, but a lot of the other kids, not so much. And I had absolutely no healthy respect for authority at all, at all. I wasn't raised with it. It just didn't occur to me that I was supposed to be not equal to the adults. And so, being in a
Ah,
classroom with a teacher who had a bit of a, power complex, I was always in trouble. And
uh-huh.
which, because she was always like, targeting me, it made it really easy for the other kids to target me too. So
Oh,
I got totally bullied and harassed. And yeah. Uh,
how long were you there and what did you end up going to high school there and kind of
no, we moved around quite a bit. I was there for like 3 years, I think.
mhm.
And in those 3 years, I learned how to mask. I didn't know that that's what I was doing, but I learned how to be what was safe,
Mhm.
what was safe to be,
Mhm.
um, and
True for so many of us, my goodness, right?
yeah, yeah, masks off now.
Right.
I can put it on as needed, but it's a
Yes.
choice now. It's not,
That's
you
right.
know. Um, and I didn't see another, nature spirit or anything like that until I was 23. And it was so unexpected. It actually freaked me out. Um, I was back in North Carolina again now, but in Chapel Hill, and I was just out by this wood pile by the house, and I think I was hanging laundry. And I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and I looked over there, and there was an elf, an actual elf. It wasn't Drilfie, but it was like Drilfie. And I was like, ah, that's not supposed to happen. This was all in my head. It's imaginary. Like, am I going crazy? And I just dropped the laundry and ran inside the house, locked the doors, locked the windows. And I was just like, oh no, what's happening? Um, and I tried to turn my back on all things woo for several years. I also had a near death experience when I was 18 that
Oh, what was that about?
well, I gave birth, and we discovered, it was my first child, and we discovered that I had a bleeding disorder that was undiagnosed until then, and
Hmm.
I ended up hemorrhaging, and it was a home birth, so I had to be transported to the hospital,
Oh my
and
goodness.
I completely died for almost 10 minutes and had a whole thing. I still haven't really talked about it much publicly, because even though it was all these years ago and I've tried to write it down, it's kind of like the metaphor I use is like it's like an ant trying to describe a redwood. Like, it's
Hmm.
just so overwhelming and vast, and so much happened. Like, I haven't yet found the right words for it, but um But yeah, that changed me. And it was so beautiful and so magnificent. And I was, in fact, given the option to come back. And I was shown like what would happen if I didn't and what would happen if I did. And I just had this brand new baby girl. And one of the things that was made very clear to me is that, part of my mission or job in this lifetime is to bring an end to certain generational and ancestral trauma. But if I choose not to come back, I'll be starting brand new generational trauma with my newborn baby girl
Mm-hmm.
that I will need to come back and, tidy up again at some point. I can't just
Mm-hmm.
leave that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, let's just go back. That was a whole thing too. I really had a hard time getting back in my body. Like there was no manual, no instruction manual of like, I was like, yeah, let's go back. But then I ended up back in the ambulance. I'm looking down at my body and I'm like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
I started dive bombing my body trying to get back in, and I kept bouncing back out and ending up in the ceiling of the ambulance again. And like, well, that didn't work. And I just kept doing it and started to get kind of frenzied. And I could hear my baby crying in the lap of the paramedic in the front seat. And anyway, I don't know what I did differently, but at one point I stuck. And
Wow. Wow. I was wondering if the baby's cry was something that
well, as soon
helped
as I
you.
said I was ready to, I was like, let's go back. Everything started to come back into focus and I could hear her again. Um,
Wow.
and prior to that, I was somewhere else entirely. Uh, it's a whole thing. Like, anyway, but because that experience was so beautiful, it actually sent me into a pretty deep depression afterwards, which may have been compounded by postpartum depression, perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
coming back and then like, yes, I was absolutely in love with my baby girl, but now that I had something to compare this life to, where everything was just light and full of love and ease and felt so supportive and just amazing. And then here, still feeling like the oddball who doesn't fit in. And I was, only 18. So I still had all of that, like, oh, everybody's judging me. And, that all that stuff that I hadn't healed yet. Didn't even know I could or should or was supposed to.
Wow.
And it was hard. It was hard. So I actually went into a pretty deep depression for several years after that. And
I'm not surprised.
my response, my way of like trying to handle it was to turn my back on all things spiritual. I was like, I can't risk that. Or at least I tried to. Turns out the woo has been following me the whole time.
Yeah, I would say so.
I tried to turn my back, but it didn't really work out that way. So
So
when I
how
went into
did you?
hypnotherapy, I was like, no woo, we're not doing the spiritual kind. I'm done with that crap. Okay. Clinical all the way. And I, studied applied psychology in college. I wanted data. I wanted hard facts, like none of the woo. But that's not what the universe had in store for my sessions. So, yeah.
So, well, how did you, I mean, what drew you to clinical psychology, do you think?
Me trying to figure myself out and my mom, the next closest person in my life was like, I wanted to figure out like what makes us tick.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually started off very briefly declaring marketing as a major. But in the very first semester of marketing, I took a Psych 101 class and I was just like, oh no, this is where I belong.
Mm-hmm.
So I quickly got out of marketing and just moved over into psychology. And I didn't even have to study. Like that's how much my brain loved learning about brains. I just would read the thing once or go to a lecture and it would just stick forever. And I still have it all. And I still like, I never tire of it. It's the rabbit hole that never ends for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but but I didn't actually become a counselor. I didn't do anything with the applied psychology. I ended up becoming a chef.
Oh, wow, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
so wait a minute. So you put yourself through school while you had an infant and a little girl.
I actually had two school age kids and then twin infants. So this was years later,
Okay.
the applied psychology. My oldest daughter, which is the one that I, had the near death experience from birthing, I think she was 12 when I went to college.
Mm-hmm.
So I did take time off. And then I'd also had her brother at that point. I didn't have the twins yet. And then took some time off to have some twins. And then so I was on like the 10-year, the decade long track, for college. Um, but yeah, I also realized in my senior year that I am not equipped or cut out for having one-on-one counseling sessions because at the time I was very empathic
Mm-hmm.
and I would just absorb
Mm-hmm.
other people's stuff and you know I would bring it home.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't yet know, like, even though Jim Gore taught me to bubble up as a little kid, since I turned my back on all that stuff, it didn't occur to me that I could like protect myself with
Mm-hmm.
that. I
Mm-hmm.
do it every day now, multiple times a day, and it works great. Thank you, Jim. Anyway, but yeah, and I decided, well, it was fun to get to learn all of this, but I'm not going to use it professionally. And there was, the fact that I had these kids and I couldn't exactly work a regular job because as soon as one of them gets sick, then they all get sick. And then I'm out of work for however long and then I get fired. So I became a personal chef because I happened to be good at cooking already. So
So you were self-taught in terms of being a chef?
yeah, mostly.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, my stepfather was also a chef. He was a Swiss chef. And so there was a little bit from there. And then, also just working in like all natural health food store cafes when I was younger and stuff. So it all worked out. And I ended up accidentally niching in gluten-free cooking. I did not mean to do that, but it turned out I was good at it. And I ended up cooking for the woman who was like the head of the Celiac Society.
Oh my goodness.
Bam, my entire clientele filled up with celiac people. So I'm really good at gluten free. I myself don't need that, um, but yeah, the reason that I found hypnotherapy and kind of got back into the whole therapeutic track was I had a extraordinarily abusive second marriage. It's
Mhm.
the abuse started when I was 6 months pregnant with the twins,
Oh,
and it was bad, like emergency room bad and like
oh,
police being called bad. And then I had a second near death experience as a result of it, actually.
goodness.
Um, yeah, I don't remember that one as well. And I often think it's because it was violent. So like part of my subconscious just said, we're going to shut things down here so that, because you don't have the ability to process the trauma from that whole thing yet. So I have bits and pieces of the actual like death experience part, but I don't know what happened leading up to it.
Hmm.
Anyway, because of that abusive second marriage, when we split up, which was by police taking him by force and putting him in jail and me getting a restraining order, he started
While you were
stalking
still
me.
pregnant or after
Yeah,
the,
they were almost exactly a year old at this point. It
okay.
started at 6 months and continued on until then. But I became agoraphobic because of all of that.
Mm.
And years, not to the point where I couldn't ever leave the house, but it was always a battle. And there were some times that I couldn't. Like, I think the longest period I ever went was 3 months of not being able to leave the house, which is really difficult when you have infant twins.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How did you function?
I relied on friends. Yeah. And honestly, I relied on my oldest daughter a lot. Like so much so that it has damaged our relationship. And I
Mhm.
don't know that she's ever going to have kids herself because she spent so much time mothering my twins, when I was
Mhm.
depressed and agoraphobic and riddled with anxiety and all of that. And I'm very sorry to you, Jasmine, for that. I love you very much and thank you. But yeah, so I like years of this, and I found a therapist who was willing to come to me because this is
Mhm.
way before Zoom, right?
Mhm.
I was so lucky. So she came to me for probably the first year, and then we got to the point where I was able to go to her. So like that's a huge breakthrough. Um, and we did cognitive behavioral therapy and we did a lot of EMDR and
Mhm.
talk therapy and, stuff. And like it helped. I'd get little breakthroughs. I could leave. on my own, as long as it was like 20 minutes or less, like as long as I wasn't gone for more than 20, or if I didn't have to go more than 2 miles. Or if I was another person, if I was with another person, I could go anywhere. But the other person couldn't be one of my kids. It has to be somebody who could drive. Because my biggest fear was having a panic attack while I was out in public and not
So
being able
you
to
were
get back home.
having panic attacks as well?
Well, that was the whole sort of. I don't know if you've ever met anybody else with agoraphobia, but the main thing with agoraphobia is your phobia is having a panic attack,
Oh,
like
I
out
did
of your
not know
house.
that.
Yeah, and so your subconscious will try and help you out by giving you the panic attacks the moment you try to leave, saying like, well,
Uh-huh.
we're not going to deal with that out there. Let's just have it here and keep you in. There you go, problem solved. So anyway, I tried hypnosis. And in 3 sessions, it cracked it wide open. And I actually was able to like start to live a normal life again
Wow.
and like go to my kids' functions and like sports events. And I mean, I was doing that stuff before, not as much as I would like, which is always a battle. And like always. And I was self medicating with alcohol to like try and quell anxiety. And like it was just a whole ugly mess. But 3 hypnotherapy sessions, and I was like a whole new person. And I went, oh, okay, I need to learn how to do this so I can help
Mm,
other people. So that was
mm.
my introduction to that. So I've talked on and on and on. So I'll shut up now. You can
No, no, yeah,
ask
you're the
anything you want.
guest. You're supposed to talk. Um, I what a extreme path that you've walked. I
Yeah.
mean, really extreme. And
I think I chose a life that there was no way out of activating deep stuff. There was no way out of that. It was like either you're going to um, go crazy,
yeah,
commit suicide, or heal and discover your superpowers. Like those were my options.
you know, along the way, uh, somebody told me that when we come in, we're given a choice. We know what our to-do list is, but we're given a choice whether we want to do it fast or slow. And if you want to do it fast, you're going to have boom, 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 right?
Yep.
And then you get a breather. But if you're going to do it slowly, it's going to.
Right, right. I think I front loaded all of the trauma
I,
because now things are pretty chill. And every day I'm so grateful. And I no longer have that, gnawing fear that, like, the other shoe's going to drop or when is it all going to come crashing down. I lived with that fear for so long. Whenever things
Mm,
were good, I couldn't trust that they would stay good.
yeah,
But now I'm just like, I'm much more present and in the moment instead of catastrophizing some imaginary future that may or may not happen.
mhm.
And I'm like every day, I'm just like so many times a day too. It's not just like I wake up and think of things to be grateful for. It's not an intellectual activity anymore. It's just like how I live. Like
Mhm,
as I'm moving through the world, I'm like, man, what a cool playground this is. Like, I
mhm.
love this. And it's not that I don't have challenges, and it's not that I don't have challenging people in my life. I have a bit of both.
Nobody gets off scot-free on that
No,
one.
but I'm able to navigate through those challenges. I go like this because I'm thinking of a buoy, like that's, on the
Mhm.
ocean, that it doesn't get pulled down and the storms can't rip it away. It just kind of stays right on it's always stable. I feel more like that now. And the challenging people in my life too, um, letting them just be the challenge that they are instead of getting upset, insulted,
Right.
offended, frustrated, trying to change them or whatever. And I'm still not great at that, but I'm getting better.
Well, you're kind of describing the flow state that we get into with the
Yeah.
infinity wave. And
Yeah. I need to get your book because I gave the one that you gave. Well, you didn't give it to me, but yeah.
right.
So yeah, I need to get your book. It sounds fascinating. I was
Well,
kind of thumbing through it before I gave it over. So
it's basically a handbook, as you saw. It's not very big. So there'd be
I like
there.
those because if it's like concise and like how to,
Thank you.
that's that's helpful.
What was the, there was a Winston Churchill quote. He was being asked to give a talk somewhere, and the woman said, "Well, how long will it take you to pull it together?" And he says, "Well, that depends, madam, on if you want me to speak for an hour and a half or for a half an hour. If it's an hour and a half, it'll be tomorrow. If it's half an hour, it will be 3 weeks." It's a lot harder to
To make things succinct. Yes,
yes, and
I
every
know.
now and then I go onto Amazon just to see if there are comments or anything like I can't answer anything, but just to see. And there will be it's guaranteed this book was way too small. I'm sending it back
Can't please
because there
everybody.
was, and like, dude, do you know how long it took me to make it that small?
Right. Yeah. It was so much more effort. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could have blabbed on for days. Anyway, well, when you if you get it when you get it, I hope you
I'll
enjoy
send
it.
you mine too. So I just did the second edition of it of
Oh, fantastic.
Quantum Journeys. So I'll sign it and send it off to you. You'll have to email me your address. I didn't save the return envelope. Sorry, from the book that you
I,
sent me.
I should have sent you a book when I sent it to Chris. I'll send one to you as well. All right, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, yes, this is a flow state, this sort of wavy state of acceptance,
Yeah.
compassion, love. We're
Or
it
surrender, I think is how Abraham Hicks puts it. But yeah, it's all the same. That
surrender is
state of
definitely
just
involved, but it's so I love that that's where you've arrived to have this flexible stability.
and I hope
Um,
it lasts. I don't know, but I'm not going to worry if it doesn't. I'm just going to
I
be here
think,
now and like however long it lasts, I'm grateful, you know?
well, my
Right.
sense is that you've weathered so much that there really isn't something that could pull you down further than where you've been.
And also I've already died and that wasn't so
Right.
bad. So I'm like, there's not really much to be scared of, like,
Exactly. And you
that,
know how to leave your body.
well,
So,
so I'm relearning that. That got shut
oh,
down too. Because after that first near death experience, remember when I said I had a hard time getting back in my
mhm,
body? Well, so I went to recover at my mom's house, right? I had this brand new baby, girl, and I had lost like 3/5 of my body's blood and had blood transfusions. And so I like needed to recover. I wasn't just a new mom. I was
right,
like,
right.
coming back from death. Um, and so I spent a lot of time in bed and I kept falling out of my body. I'd go to sleep, I'd turn over, and my body wouldn't come with me. And then I'd find myself up in the corner of the bedroom looking down at my body and being like, oh my God, again? Here we go. And like getting all frantic, trying to get back in my body again. And my body has its own consciousness. It's fine without me. It knows how to do all the things it needs to do to stay alive. Right. But I wanted to be in it. Like that's my vehicle,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and it would happen so much. Anyway, I discovered this little hack, which was if I had a living being like that I could touch, so like my baby, right? But she's going to grow up eventually. I can't like, keep making her sleep with me like forever. So I discovered that cats work great for that. I've
Cats.
had cats ever since. Yeah, cats. So if I have a cat sleeping with me, that energy like tethered me and kept me from falling out of my body. Anyway, as a result of all of this, I guess my subconscious, once it figured out how to keep me in my body, it won't let me leave easily anymore. Now that I'm trying to do it on purpose again, because I've
Yeah.
gone through the Monroe Institute Gateway
Mhm.
experience recordings. And when it gets to the place where it's time to lift off out of your body, I'll get that telltale sign of like the vibration, like I'm about to. And then my subconscious goes, pulls me back in, jolts me awake. And I'm like, ah. So I can kind of do it. I've gotten to the point, it's not consistent, but I can get up to my ceiling and then I can come back down. I can't seem to get out of my bedroom or anything. And I don't know if I ever will. It's okay. It's just for fun now. It's not like a project. It's just like, it'd be cool if I could relearn that
Well,
or
it
recover it.
might be an interesting question to ask if it's in your highest good to do so.
Yeah. Well, my
Because there are
subconscious doesn't
people,
think so, but my
well, yeah,
subconscious doesn't always work for my highest good. It just doesn't know that because it's all about keeping me safe.
Right.
right? And I feel like my higher consciousness is fine with it, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it at all.
Hmm.
So I got to get my higher consciousness to communicate with my subconscious to say, hey, like ease up on the reins a little. She's
Mm.
safe. She's not dying anymore. Well, I mean, we're all dying all the time. What I mean is she's not dying right now.
Right.
Because the number one cause of death is birth. So
Right,
like
right,
we just need to wrap our minds around that and just accept that, no one gets out without the like there's two bookends, right? Birth, death.
right, right.
So nothing to be afraid of. In the middle though, there's a whole lot of life.
So, so you learned how to do hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
How did you learn that?
I went to the first school I went to was all a regression to cause style of hypnosis. Um, which I found limiting. It's great for some things. It's actually really fantastic for some things, but it was limiting. So then I went to
So let's just make sure everybody understands what that is. Um, if
regression
somebody
to
has a
cause.
problem and you want to find out where the root of it was.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
So let's say that you have a problem with self sabotage. And so a regression to cause hypnotherapist would take you, induce you into a trance state and then take you back to whatever age it was that this started, the origin or the source of it, so that you can kind of untangle
Hmm.
whatever happened and
Hmm.
then rewire it
Hmm.
and conceivably no longer have the issue. And sometimes it works fantastic and other times not so much. And not everybody needs to go back to the source of things, especially a person who has a whole lot of trauma. And I discovered
Exactly.
this personally because just in a practice session with another student in the school, I ended up getting re traumatized quite by accident.
Mm.
And sort of shut me down for a while
Hmm.
because I stumbled upon a repressed memory that I wasn't ready to access yet.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
I've
it's a tricky
since,
business. It's a
yeah.
tricky business.
So then I decided that I needed more tools. So I went to another hypnotherapy academy. MMHA is what it's called, Mike
Hmm.
Mandel Hypnosis Academy. And then from there, I just got the bug. And so I just started learning and learning and learning. And as I'm doing this, I'm having these sessions. And then my sessions started changing. Now, remember, I was trying to stay clinical. I wanted
Yes.
hard science and facts as much as possible, right? Um, the articles that were available on my website for potential clients to see were like, from Stanford and Harvard and the whatever. Like these were clinical, peer reviewed, evidence based. But my clients started having past life regressions, completely unbidden, unexpected, and like going to the Akashic records and meeting their spirit guides and their lost loved ones. And I'm going like, really? Why me? So,
Wow.
but I can't just dismiss their experiences, So I came at it from, I was like, you know what? It's not about me. It's not about my beliefs, my opinions, my whatever. This is the client's experience. I'm going to support whatever their experience is. I'm not going to say, well, that doesn't fit within the framework of clinical hypnosis. So therefore, you must be wrong. Like, I'm just going to go like, oh, okay. So that happened. Like, let's find out more, Um, but it kept happening. And then I had one session where I was the client where my highest self came through and I found out her name and I remembered her from my first near death experience. I was like, I remember
Oh,
you. And
wow.
she was like, yeah, I was there. That was me. Um, and she basically gifted me, not all at once, but a new way of fusing or merging the clinical with the spiritual. I didn't even like to use the word spiritual for a really long time. I was like,
Uh-huh.
we need to find another word. So I would call it metaphysical or, energetic. I really wanted to stay away from it because that's how deep the anti-woo ran with me for a while. So I've come full circle now. But anyway, so she was gifting me like downloads of how to do this. And I didn't know it was going to turn into a whole academy. I was just doing like, I was given enough for like one class at a time. So like I would do it with my clients and I would take notes and I would get the data, and it seemed to be working with, everybody. And so I'm like, okay, it's time to teach this. So then I would just put out a thing to other hypnotists and say, hey, I'm going to teach this class on this particular protocol on how to get a person into a particular state of trance so that you can talk to their higher consciousness so that they can channel their higher consciousness, because that's what
Uh-huh.
my higher consciousness taught me how to do. And then time goes on. A client of mine finds herself in a hallway with all these doors that have like different answers behind them. And my highest consciousness, whose name is L, by the way, EL, said, pay attention to this. I was like, okay. And thus became the hallway of answers, which is a huge part of the protocol. And that was a gift also to both me and the client at the time. And then went on and on. So now there's like 8 different designated doorways. And then there's also potentially infinite more. We don't know, but there's 8 that I teach. And then, we just let the client go wherever it is that their higher self takes them. And it might take them to another lifetime. Not always past, by the way. There's parallel lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the first time that happened, I was like, well, that's a thing. And then it happened again. I was like, I guess so. Okay. Interesting, because here I am just the observer. I'm trying not to build any belief systems around it.
Right, right.
I feel like as soon as you build a belief system, it like puts you in a cage and you're not
Yeah,
able
that's
to
right.
receive any new information that
That's
might,
right.
you know. So anyway, so yeah, over the course of that year, it became a whole thing. And then Elle was like, okay, now it's time for you to package it all together and teach it. It's time. And I was like, what do you mean teach it? I've been teaching it. She was like, no, all together as a whole school. And I'm like, I'm not grown up enough for that. And she was like, yes, you are, Kryssa. You can do it. So I was like, all right. So I did. And then I ended up getting it board certified and accredited through the International Hypnosis Association, which meant that I had to add a whole bunch more stuff like the history of hypnosis and like the basic foundations and all these things. And so now, yeah, it's a dual certification academy recognized internationally. I've got students all over the world. There's 2 in here that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw them. Jeremy's one with the
Mm-hmm.
bluebird, and then Susan, wherever she may be. So yeah, it's at least 50% channeled. Quantum Journeys Hypnosis Academy, and of course the clinical hypnotists, because we're a tight knit group. It sometimes feels like 3rd grade again because they harass me for it. They
What do you
harass
mean
me
they harass you for what?
for going into the woo woo side of things. Yeah, but I'm like, you know what, guys? I've already played this game. This is boring. You go ahead and have fun, but I'm not even going to give you the time of day. Like it doesn't bother me anymore. You know, there's like, there's a select few of them. They love to tease me for using the word quantum. They think I don't know what it actually means. So then I'm like, oh yeah, try me. Go ahead. And it ends up
So,
every time they harass me for it, I get new students.
oh,
So every
interesting.
time every time they try to like put me down, harass me, bully me, insult me, whatever, my responses to them cause new people to find me and start orbiting, in my little world. Cause they're like, I like her response. I like how she didn't put up with the crap. And she also put them in their place, but in a, respectful manner. So I'm like, God, bring it on. Bring it on.
Interesting, interesting. That's fascinating. So, how long have you had this academy?
Since we officially launched it February 2023 on my birthday, actually.
Oh, beautiful. And you've already trained a bunch of people.
There's almost 300 students now.
Fantastic.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So is this
And
something that anybody could join? Do you have to have a certain background?
so depending on where you live, there's a handful of places that do require more than just going through like my academy. So like Israel is one place where you actually have to have a degree in psychology first, but
Hmm.
most places are not like that. And in America, I mean, you can be a housewife that was out of work for decades and come and join my academy and get certified and hang your shingle and get to work right away. And it's pretty I feel like it's pretty well rounded. So like you can come in as a beginner, but you can also come in with a background in some other type of hypnosis or, change work
Mm-hmm.
and benefit equally.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, anybody can do it. Anybody. And
And
each
how,
state is a little bit different too. So like some states require more hoops to jump through, but it's
right,
available for everyone. You just have to figure out like what your particular geographical, you know,
what
um,
the needs are there. There are
yeah.
the
hmm
rules. And so you teach this online. And
And
how
I
long
do
does
some
it?
live training once or twice a year as well. But yeah,
Oh,
the academy itself is online. It's all
mm-hmm.
pre-recorded modules and lots of like written content as well. And then there's like tests and then there's a final exam and a practicum. You have to do so many practice sessions and turn those in. And yeah. Mhm.
So how long does it take to go through the program?
The shortest amount of time is 3 months. So you could conceivably be a certified quantum journeys hypnotherapist within 90 days. Most people take a little longer, 6 months to a year. But if you do the live training, you can do it all in as short as a week. Because every once in a while, I'll do like a week-long live training, and then other times I'll do like 6 weeks where we meet every Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and then by the end of that, you would have everything that you need in order to graduate and certify.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And this is so this is completely unique to you because it's come through L and lots of other beings, I'm sure.
Well, I
But
mean, I had my own foundation in hypnotherapy, which is
right,
woven into it,
right, of
right?
course.
But the
But
way that, so
you're not going
Elle
to
just
find
helped
this
me connect
anywhere
all the
else.
dots and gave me like frameworks.
Right.
Yeah. Because my little human brain actually is riddled with ADHD. I would not have been able to do this completely on my own. Like I
Mhm.
needed her help for sure. But once I get into that flow state, which she helps me with, then it
Mhm.
just happens, right? And
Mhm.
that's the channeling part of it. It just there it is. And every time when I have a session, when I'm in a session, I actually tap into that as well. So like Elle is
Sure.
with me in every session.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. That I understand that. I mean, I understand what that's like. So, this is really amazing. And you don't really do private so much anymore, but the
I still
you're
do. It's just not the backbone of things right now because I'm doing more like group stuff with my students and the graduates. And I have a new podcast coming out on June 2nd called Two Woke Chicks. It's just me and another hypnotherapist pulling back the veil of the matrix and exposing just the deeper architecture of patriarchy and the stuff that's been keeping us oppressed and keeping us from remembering who we really really are, how powerful we really really are.
yeah,
So that's
fantastic.
that's where my joy is these days, but I still probably do about I don't know, 5 to 6 sessions a week,
Mm.
and a session is 90 minutes, sometimes up to 2 hours, but 90 minutes. And I might be tapering back to just doing like 4 a week pretty soon. Because I'm
Well,
trying to write a book too.
if people wanted to have a session in this style of hypnosis, they would go to your website and find
Yeah.
your practitioners or
Yes. I have a whole listing of all of the graduates, as long as they put their name and contact information, website, and everything in there, then you can find one that's in your own time zone. Most of us do sessions online, but there are some that will do them in person. So if you find somebody that's actually local to you, you could always ask. So yeah, so I do the one-on-one sessions. I usually get booked out pretty far. But there's I think there's like 30 to 35 practitioners now listed in that database all over the world. I mean, like New Zealand, Australia, Dubai, India, Japan. Oh, actually, no, she didn't graduate yet. Not Japan. Japan soon. And then lots in the UK. Germany. Yeah. And of course, America.
Wonderful. Well, I'm really curious to know more about this, and I think the listeners will be also because there are many schools of hypnosis, and um, they've become, they're different because the person who's come up with them, like you, has come up with their own particular style. Um, how would you say that your style sort of sets you apart? What would be the unique aspect? I
Well,
mean, we know how you got it, but to
right.
just explain that.
It sits at the intersection of the clinical and the neuroscience, uh, as and then like bringing in the subconscious. But what we're really working with is multidimensional consciousness. So the consciousness of the physical body, the consciousness of the subconscious, the consciousness of the higher consciousness. So it's not just about fixing problems, although we do that. So like nervous system regulation, releasing trauma, memory reconsolidation, through regression, there's like inner child healing and some things like that. But we also do. So here's an example. Here's an example from an actual client. We don't have to say, let's say. It's not hypothetical. Here's a real situation. I'll anonymize her, but she came to me for weight loss, right? It's a pretty common thing people go to hypnosis for. And so in the session, we get to the hallway of answers, and I just ask her higher consciousness to please reveal whatever doorway we need to explore so that we can understand what she needs in order to lose weight. Might take her to the past, might take her to the future, we don't know where it's going to take her, right? She ended up going to a past life. And in this past life, she died of starvation.
Oh, wow.
And she remembered as she was dying that she was like, next lifetime, I'm going to make sure that I always have enough weight on me.
Oh, wow.
And so she had thought, because she'd gone to another, I don't like to tell my clients what I think it might be because I don't know, right? But she had gone to another hypnotherapist who had her convinced that her weight was a protective measure to like a body of armor because she was probably sexually abused as a child
Oh,
and just
yeah.
doesn't remember it. And that is called leading the client. And this is where
Yes.
false memories get implanted. And please, if you're a hypnotist, don't do that. Sorry, I get don't do that. You do not lead the client. Dangerous for all. Okay.
True. True.
But so we discovered that this was what was going on. She was able to witness the death scene, but objectively, like not in it, but like watching it, and
Mhm.
move from there to the life between lives, the
Mhm.
place where we go in between lifetimes, and get the full understanding of all of this. And then so I'm just asking her higher consciousness, like, what else does she need in order to now like reprogram or repattern, things at a biological level, not just, mental, or psychological or emotional. And so it it said, well, let's bring her inner healer in and do some body scans, and we'll start working with her metabolism, and we'll start working with her hormone levels and like different systems of her body, adrenals, lymph, things like that. And I'm just asking questions. I'm not directing anything. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
okay, inner healer, like just let us know what's going on. And so the client is then saying, oh, my inner healer is discovering this and this and this. And then I'm just saying, well, can we resolve that? Is it in her highest good to resolve that today? And there were a lot of things that it said yes to, and there were a couple of things it said no to. There was a few things that she wasn't quite ready for, and it wanted her to continue with some sort of therapy, not necessarily hypnotherapy, but continue with some sort of therapy because now that she's sort of cracked open this like understanding about herself, she's going to need support to like continue to integrate it, right? So she did that. I think we had 3 sessions in total, and then she went and found like a talk therapist that she could just see
Mhm.
regularly because I don't do regular weekly sessions like a talk
Mhm.
therapist.
Mhm.
People are pretty much in and out. Like they come in, resolve whatever, and they might come back later with another goal. But anyway, I saw her several months later, and she had lost a lot of weight. And I was like, oh wow, that's so great that it looks like the hypnosis worked. And here's the funny thing: this is a real thing that happens in hypnotherapy a lot. She goes, oh yeah. I lost like 67 pounds, but I don't think it was the hypnosis. I just started
Ah.
eating better and exercising more. And I was like, well, you go, girl. You look great. Anyway, it's a real thing. It's called the apex problem. And it's because with hypnotherapy, the changes are so organic and so natural. It's not like a switch that suddenly gets flipped. It's like it just integrates naturally and easily. And suddenly you find yourself wanting to do the things now that you didn't want to before. And it feels like it's all you. And it is all you. It is all you, but it's
Mhm.
you being facilitated to get there
Yes,
with
yes.
some help, right? But it's a real thing, the apex problem. People will, and sometimes they'll even forget that they even had a hypnotherapy session.
Yeah, yeah. I've had similar things happen. I've been a neurofeedback practitioner for over
Yeah,
30 years.
I imagine
And
it's similar.
yeah, and they'll all of a sudden their habits will change, like the foods they eat, everything. And but it happens so organically, like you're saying, almost in the background, they're all of a sudden turning around and they forgot what it was like before.
Right, exactly.
Because now
Because
it's just so real and normal to be like this.
that neural pathway has already been rerouted. And so
So
they can't even connect with how bad they felt.
exactly. I never knew it had a name, the apex problem.
Yep. The apex
Oh,
problem.
I love that. Okay.
So that's the kind of work we do. Like, and speaking of weight loss, it's not always that kind of a thing. Like I had another woman who it turned out that it was because she had had a late stage miscarriage that she had never properly grieved. And so her body would not let her lose weight beyond the point that she was at when she had the miscarriage. Like she would lose it and
Oh,
it would bounce back up, lose it, bounce back up. It kept happening.
wow.
And we discovered this while she was in a trance state. And basically all we needed to do was just to help her really go ahead and process that grief and like let her feel the feelings and release those feelings. She
Mhm.
had processed it intellectually only, and she didn't really have the time and the space and the support to do it any other way because she had little kids at home. Anyway, so we did all of that, and the weight just started falling off. She didn't need to diet, no extra exercise. It was just like her body was just saying like, I'm not gonna let this go. I know you need to heal, so I'm gonna keep doing this so that you get the message.
Mhm. What's remarkable to me about hypnotherapy is how gentle it is, how substantive it is, how revealing it is. If I hadn't had
It saved my life.
it saved my life too, I'll tell you, because when the walls started moving after the wave came in, and my world was literally
Oh
like
yeah.
there were a couple of times when I would go to her because I needed to understand what was happening, and it was the only way that I could have access to that higher consciousness, to some perspective, and also a lot of past life involvement.
Mhm.
And if you don't know about that, I mean, I know I already it wasn't a question of believing it, but I couldn't access it myself. I
Right.
needed her help.
Yes.
And
Well,
once
it's
you
really hard
understand,
to be the one who's taking you into the trance state and then also experiencing the trance state. Like you need somebody else to kind of
you
hold
do, you do,
that space for
you
you.
do.
Yeah.
Um, and at one point also, I had a terribly painful loss of my closest friend.
Mm.
And I couldn't get over it. And I used all my tools and I did everything I could, and I knew it would take time and blah, blah, blah. But it was affecting my ability to function well. And so finally I went and in desperation, really, I went and had a session. And she does a quantum healing kind of thing.
Mhm,
Um, and wow, when I came to understand why this rift occurred, that was multiple lifetimes upon multiple lifetimes,
and so
and
basically,
really
you just
kind of
got
like a payback.
re-triggered
It was
from her death.
once I understood it, then I was able to move through my healing. It wasn't like all the feelings went away. It wasn't like that, but I could move forward. What a relief.
Yeah.
What a relief. And we're all carrying stuff like that,
Yes. We are.
that we just get used to it. It gets incorporated into the system.
Yeah.
And I just think having a hypnosis once a year as a
Just
as
as
a
like a tune-up.
yes, I
Yeah.
think it is really, really helpful. And you know, and I love EMDR and I love all the different things. But I just think hypnosis is so gentle and your subconscious, you lead yourself in a way through the process.
Providing you have a good practitioner who knows
Providing
not
you
to
have a
step
good
all over it
practitioner.
and try and lead
Yes.
you. I did have a past life regression session of my own where I was the client with kind of a famous hypnotist.
Hmm.
And I was kind of disappointed because, like, as soon as the name came out of my mouth, he's on Wikipedia in the session asking me, is it this last name? Is it this last name? Was this the year? I was like, how is it that you're such a well known hypnotherapist and you're totally leading me? Like,
Wow.
100% leading me.
Wow.
I could, and so it
Wow.
popped me out of trance because I was like, this is not cool.
Right. Right.
It's just
Wow.
so surprising. But anyway, yes, as long as you have a good hypnotherapist, any graduate of Quantum Journeys Hypnotherapy has it has been drilled into them, right, Jeremy? Drilled into them. Don't lead the client. Don't lead the client.
Yeah, you're
It's got to be
planting
their experience.
seeds.
And also, like, don't impose your belief system. I make them sign a waiver, a prerequisite
Mhm.
waiver. Like, I will not impose my spiritual or religious belief system on my client. I don't care what your belief systems are, whatever, but just don't impose them on your clients. Let them have their own
That's
experience because that's what's in their highest good, you know?
Yeah, boy, Krista, we're side by side in all these things. I completely in
Well,
agreement
chances
with
are you
you.
and I have spent some time together coming up too. So.
Probably. The Findhorn was the first tip off.
Yeah. I do remember a lifetime in Lemuria where a whole bunch of people that I know now were there too. Like we're having like a reunion of sorts in this lifetime. I wonder if you're one of
No,
them.
that's quite possible. And you know what also, well, sometimes I've found in my life, and I don't know if it's true of others, but um I don't think I have, I'm not pulled towards somewhere or something, a body of work or whatever. I'm just not, whatever. Like that's how I was with Egypt forever. Oh, it's so interesting. Yeah, pyramids and ISIS and, it didn't grab me, uh, until November 2012, when a friend of mine said, "Oh, I'm going to Egypt in 2 weeks with a group, and we're going to be there for 12, 12, 12." And this big bell inside my head went, "Bang! I must go to Egypt. I must go to Egypt," and and I was on that trip 2 weeks later. It was insane. But then I found out why, because I came home and I had a hypnotherapy session and all the pieces fell back together and I understood why. But you don't,
I think we've
sometimes,
all had lifetimes in ancient Egypt because think about how long of a period that
yes,
was. Ancient
yes,
Egypt was not just like, a couple hundred
yes.
years, it was several
No.
thousand.
And
So,
what's interesting is that the group that I went with was 95% Japanese women.
wow,
And they
they
all
remember.
had memories of being in Egypt. Like it was like they were going home. So
Beautiful.
interesting. Anyway, we could go on and on. Let's see if we have any questions from
Yeah.
our lovely listeners. Don't be shy, y'all. Come on in. I'm going to make
Oh,
this
and I
as,
had a blurb that I actually wrote down, but I forgot to say.
oh,
Uh,
let's hear your blurb.
I just added it to my website. It got downloaded into my mind just a few days ago. I used to have a blurb that said, I don't just have sessions, I help you open portals. But a new one came in that said, I help you remember who you really are so you can become who you're meant to be. That's the new thing.
Love that.
So
Love
that's
that.
my sessions. And as a natural side effect of either going through the academy or having a quantum journeys hypnosis session, a lot of people discover that they have some hidden intuitive skills and talents of their own that start to get activated or reactivated because maybe they had them when they were younger and then shut them down like I did. And that happens to a lot of people. Like, and a lot of the students, as they're going through the training, they're like, oh my God, this is the missing piece. This is the thing. And then they're like, I remember this material. I'm like, how do you remember this material? It's all brand new, but it's not brand new. That's the thing. It's actually like ancient and also very cutting edge,
Yeah.
kind of all
Yeah.
based on the newest science of consciousness. But
Yeah.
we actually had all of that way back when, and then we lost it, and now
That
we're recovering it.
that's right.
I'm on the front
And
lines of
and
that.
really that's one of our jobs in a way, to find our piece of that, our piece in that journey, to
Yeah.
find where we are fitting in. Let me ask you, well, I want to make, oh, so Jenny asked, have you ever had sessions with your kids?
Um, One time and it went disastrously. So I do not do that anymore. And in fact, I don't say it's a hard, fast rule, but I recommend to my students not to have sessions with close family, especially kids.
Yeah.
If they're a little kid and it's like for bedwetting, fine, but not for trauma or, going into other lifetimes or whatever, because you've got already so much history and baggage with them that it's going to cause them to censor themselves. And it also is going to cause you to be sensitive
Yeah.
to whatever they come up
Yeah.
with. So,
Yeah.
I did have a parts therapy session with my youngest son, and it was not, it did not end well. So,
Mm,
yeah.
mm.
Now he's fine. We've put him back together. Don't worry. I didn't break him,
It's
but
tough. It's tough with our kids. It really is. And I'm curious, do your kids, are they into what you do, just in general, or do they?
I would say that one of them kind of pats me on the head and is like, okay, mom. Two of them are totally into it. And one of them thinks it's all a bunch of hogwash and I'm like some sort of charlatan. So,
Oh gosh. Yeah, gotcha. I have one
but
of those.
even the one who like is like, it's, yeah, oh, the okay, mom, past
Yeah,
life. All right. Even that one is very respectful about it. Like he's not a
that's good.
jerk or anything. Yeah. He's
That's
just kind of
good.
like, yeah. Um,
Um,
I have two websites, Raven. Are you interested in booking a session with me, or are you interested in Quantum Journeys Hypnosis Academy? Sorry, I should have said ADHD. Sorry, Hope. There is a question in the comment section asking for my website. Since this is a
Raven, I've
podcast.
unmuted you. Which one?
Oh, I just typed it in. A session.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I will get that copied and pasted right over. But there's also a bunch of other practitioners too, besides me. And they're all like trained up.
Yeah,
Uh, as well
I'd
as
be willing to have one of your trainees too.
Yeah. So I just gave you my website for booking a session or at least having a discovery call. And that's the KryssaMarieBowman.com. And then if you're looking for another practitioner, I will get you that one just because I might be booked out far. So like if you would like to have a quantum journeys hypnosis session, in the next few weeks, then you might want to go to the Quantum Journeys Hypnosis website and find another practitioner because they can do it sooner than I can, most likely.
and these websites will be in the show notes, when the YouTube comes out. So just so you know,
Because
that'll
my
be.
eyesight is like I'm trying to see that and not doing very well.
Do you
Yeah,
know
it'll
how
be.
to copy and paste the chat, Raven?
I know how to copy it. I'm not sure about
Okay.
this.
Or you can save the chat, the three little dots, on the side. If you go into the chat box, and up on the top right-hand side, there are three little dots, and it'll say save chat.
I just learned a new thing today. Thank you, Hope. I did not know that that was an option. I've been
Oh,
doing
yeah.
Zoom sessions for years and I never noticed that that was there. Good to know.
Well, it's hidden. It's hidden behind the three little dots.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you ever get, I have two questions. One is, have you ever had people kind of go to the future?
Hmm.
And the second question is, because I want to know more about that. And the second question is, have you had people go to alternative planets?
Hmm. Both. Yes. I have.
Fantastic.
It's it was very rare. It seems like it's picking up now. The alternative planets. Future, no. future has only happened twice. I've only had 2 clients that went into a future lifetime. And interestingly, both of them were quite young.
Hmm.
One was like an 11-year-old boy, and the other one was a 14-year-old girl.
Hmm.
And neither one of them believed in reincarnation or other lifetimes or anything. And it just sort of,
Mhm.
so for the boy, he was a little freaked out. So what I did is I said, it could just be your subconscious mind giving you a metaphor. It's okay. Just let it be a fairy tale. It doesn't have to be anything more than that, because it wasn't intended for that to happen.
Uh-huh.
But and then other planets that happens. It used to be kind of rare, but yeah, it's happening more regularly now. Just like people are accessing the Akashic records more regularly now,
Mhm.
without much fanfare. Even there used to be like a whole sort of like you needed permission and da da da. And now
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
it's right
exactly.
there. So yeah, you work with that too. You've noticed the same thing. Yeah.
Well, I just noticed that I don't know how I noticed it. Actually, now that you mention it, I just felt that it was more accessible.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it's so
It's
the
not a
the
mental
message that
thing. I just had an awareness about it.
I've received about that is we can say that it's the veil is thinning, but it's not so much that, it's that humanity's frequency is rising.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
so now we have more access to the things that were kept from us. We're
Yes.
supposed to have access to this stuff, but it was shut down and kept from us for a long time. And now we're recovering it, reclaiming our rights. Are those other planets in the solar system? So sometimes, and sometimes not, or maybe they are, but we haven't discovered them yet here on Earth. I don't know. Um, so yeah, I actually have a memory. I think it might be a parallel life, not a past life. I'm not entirely sure of Andromeda,
Hmm.
except that we're no longer on the planet. We have like created like biosphere systems that we're
Uh-huh.
living in now. And I think that it's another me. Maybe. I'm not
Mhm.
sure. I haven't figured out like exactly what's going on with that because I just get little snapshots of it. I don't know my name or anything there. But when it's like dream state when it happens. It's not like intentional, but when I access that, it's very familiar. I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like me, but there and in a whole different body.
Got it.
Really
Yes.
interesting. Um, and then I've had other people that, absolutely have, um, I don't know. I don't know if I can call it past life because, like time is measured differently on other planets. So it might be past, might be future, might be parallel. I don't know. And some of the planet names are familiar and some are not. And I always ask, is this in our solar system? Is it, they do seem to all be in our galaxy,
Okay.
as
Okay.
far as I can tell, but maybe not
Dana, did you want
necessarily.
to ask something?
A couple of questions. Um, Early on, you were both talking about masking. Uh, did I get that right? Something about masks.
Yeah. So
What?
that's just the like common term for people that are more on the neurodivergent side for what they have to do in order to appear normal,
So
in order to fit
make
in.
yeah.
So that's what
Okay. Okay.
mask.
I got that. And then your students in the academy, I imagine they don't have the same background that you have in the sensitivity world, the being able to go up in the ceiling, or historically now leaving your body, or having that channel come down.
Yeah, quite a few of them actually have a very like scientific clinical background.
Yeah. So how does that work in their diagnostic, working with clients?
Well, shall we ask one? There's one here. Jeremy, do
That
you
would
want
be
to answer
great.
that?
Um, yeah, I guess I'm relatively new to hypnosis compared to I think most of the people that I have been learning from, obviously. But I came into hypnosis with a very practical, the idea that I was going to be very practical and down to earth and grounded, blah blah blah, what I consider to be grounded. And then the more time passed, the stranger experiences I was having, and
Mm.
felt like if I was going to ignore that, it would be just sticking my head in the sand for no good reason. I would be closing myself off to experiences. So, my specialization has always been parts work or ego states, resource states, whatever you want to call them. And so Kryssa I'm originally from MMH as well, Mike Mandel Hypnosis. And I would see Kryssa comment all the time on the Facebook group for that. And everything she said was very thoughtful and insightful. And so I admired her as a person and a practitioner and everything, but then also as having these experiences in my own, um, I guess, sessions and things where it wasn't the practical approach wasn't covering all of what I was experiencing.
Mm.
And so I don't know if you mentioned this, Chris. She has like a 2 day kind of pass to take a look at the content.
Yeah,
Uh,
you can go check it out for
yeah.
free for 48 hours. Mhm.
And that was really clinched it for me. It's like, okay, this is aligns with both what I've been experiencing, but also what I want to learn more about. And also, as a practitioner for ego states work, it was an expansion of that really felt like a missing piece for my approach. And it's just been an all around amazing experience.
Are you signed
Uh,
up for the upcoming ego states and entities class?
Not yet.
Because
I know it's
that's going
coming
to be
up.
really helpful.
Yeah, I always have 50 things pulling on my attention, it
Yeah,
feels
yeah.
like. I think all hypnotists do.
I'm
Like
not
they're
trying to promote anything just for hypnotists, but it
No, 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 no.
will help you to discern when an entity is masquerading as an
Yeah.
ego state. Yeah. But also, Dana, so this book is not actually totally written by me. It's written by me and 18 of my students.
Oh,
So if you
good.
want to get like their
Yeah.
their perspective, it's
Yeah.
their client sessions too. Yeah. It's an anthology. I meant to mention that. Sorry. I took total credit and I shouldn't have. I didn't even mean to do that. So sorry about that.
Thank you. No,
Thanks,
excellent.
Jeremy.
Thank you so much. This has been fascinating.
Oh, thank you. I'm so honored to be here. This is, yeah, this is great. Thank you so much, Hope. Thank you, Dana. Thanks, Jeremy,
Yeah.
for responding.
Yeah, thank
Sorry
you,
for putting you on
Jeremy.
the spot.
I appreciate your perspective. Well, listen, does anybody have anything else they would like to ask before we wrap it up? It's been a really wonderful conversation, and I know we've all learned a lot. And, I want to be able to refer people because sometimes I have clients where it's just really clear they need to have a hypnosis session. So now I have a place to go. And,
Yeah.
with your list of practitioners, that will be
And
very
I
helpful.
am still doing one-to-one sessions, but I'm moving more into what I would like to do is instead of just like a one-off session to have like working with somebody for a period of time and
Yeah.
having multiple sessions. So I'm still
Yeah.
sort of figuring like I have a 3 package session, but um, I really want to help people completely tune into who they really are and their sense of empowerment and authenticity and speaking from their own, true voice, clearing up any unnecessary trauma that's still hanging around, getting rid of any entities that might be littering their field, strengthening their energy body, like the whole thing, not just the clinical and not just the,
Right.
exploration, but like whole life change.
Right.
So,
I
And it's possible. It's possible. It happened to
like
you.
hypno coaching, I guess, is kind of, I
Yeah.
think, what
Yeah.
I'm looking at. I just
Great.
haven't quite dialed it all in yet. I'm waiting for some input from Elle. Like, hey, Elle, you gonna help me out with this one?
I can't think of any other therapy right now that I would want to sign up with because I'd really, it sounds like, oh my God, you just said it all. I mean, like sign me up.
Well, you know what I love about hypnotherapy in general, but specifically my version, my unbiased opinion here, is that you don't have to have a problem to benefit from it. Like you
Right.
can have a goal, right? It doesn't have to be like psychotherapy where, you have a problem and a diagnosis and this is like, sure, you got a problem. Well, we're going to resolve that. But you can also just come in because you want to enjoy life more, because you want to notice the glimmers more and let the triggers fall away.
Mhm.
So Ginny, it's funny that you just asked this question in chat saying, is this similar to Dolores Cannon's hypnotherapy? I've never studied Dolores Cannon's hypnotherapy, but I did just today receive an email. This is why it's funny, from somebody who's doing QHHT. And she just did the 48-hour free thing. And she was like, I've been doing QHHT for a year and I thought this might be the same. And I was so blown away. This is completely different. And
Oh,
I'm like,
really?
but then I also have another student who says that there's some similarities, but since I've never taken that training, I don't know. I really didn't want to muddy up my channel.
Yeah,
So I didn't want to read a whole bunch of other stuff
right.
when I was receiving those downloads for Quantum Journeys Hypnosis. So I haven't actually studied a bunch of other people who do similar work. I might eventually. It's not like out of arrogance. It's just that I didn't want other stuff to get, mixed up in there. I hope
Yeah.
that makes sense.
It
Not
does
making sense.
completely. Keep the channel clean.
Yeah.
All right, my friends. Well, this has been quite a beautiful evening, and I think everybody is very excited about what you're offering, and whether we have some future practitioners or just some future clients.
Yeah, there's no prerequisites. You don't have to have a degree.
Or both.
Yeah. All you have to do is have an open mind and a willingness to help yourself and help others. So,
There you go.
and
There you go.
expand your awareness of all things, because that's going to happen as just a natural side effect. So
Exactly.
thank you so much. Hope this was such an honor. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure, Kryssa. Thank you for coming,
Thank you to everyone.
I think everybody loved you, and now there will be a chance for people to, wider audience to watch.
Yeah.
So
And I thought I
if
was going
you
to be
like,
nervous because you have like a much bigger audience than I'm used to, but I feel pretty good. Not nervous.
well, you did great. So we're gonna, if I always want to say, if you really liked this conversation, then do the like and subscribe and but share
Good
it.
stuff.
Share it, because this is the kind of thing that can turn your family, your friends, you yourself, turn your life around pretty quickly and fairly painlessly. Not saying completely, but pretty smoothly. Let's put it that way.
It's pretty painless compared to, talk therapy or
Right.
cognitive behavioral or, therapies where you have to go in and like focus on what's wrong and,
Right.
all that stuff. So no.
So do all those things, and we'll see you next time. Signing off for Infinite Wisdom with Kryssa Bowman. Thanks, everybody.